welcome to this week's Olsem Wanem program. I'm Florence John Duo. When drafting policies and regulations for a specific population, it is vital to have this target group's views. We will now look at the juvenile justice sector and how, in most cases, children do not have a say in policies and regulations that are formulated targeting them. Juvenile Justice Act 2014 aims at giving alternative punishment to children who have come into conflict with the law. In order for the implementers of this act to fully carry out the implementation effectively, there has to be an implementing tool, which is a regulation, to help the court system.
So we're in the process of formulating policy, national policy, as well as regulation, updating it. Of course, it's been around for a while, but we are more or less updating it and in consistency with the new law. So in that process, the wider community has to have an input in the formulation of the national policy as well as the regulation. So we've come to, we're sort of winding down to the last processes. And the most critical group in society are children. And of course, the Juvenile Justice Act, we manage legislation that governs how children who come into conflict with the law are handled and processed in our legal system and through our criminal justice system.
Apart from the Juvenile Justice Act, there are other legislations that complement the functions of the Juvenile Justice Act. These are the Lookout Pikinini Act and Family Protection Act.
Before children come in conflict with the law, they have to begin somewhere. And that's where those legislations cover, because it covers family environments, home environments, etc., to ensure that a child is brought up. So we do not have to deal with that child. But if that child crosses the line of breaking the law, then that's where we come in. We come in to ensure that that child is handled in a way that is consistent with the mandate that we have signed with the United Nations.
The Department of Justice and Attorney General came up with the initiative of having a school debate to involve children to have their say.
Papua New Guinea has an obligation as a signatory to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Children. And the Juvenile Justice Act that we manage as a juvenile justice branch of Papua New Guinea, we have to abide and also be consistent with our obligations under the UN Charter. So the laws that we pass, the regulations that we formulate, must have a wider input. So in the process, we've come so far, and now it's the time for children to participate. And this debate is all about having a view on children, children having their part and role to play in this process of national policy formulation and regulation. We hope that with this debate process and other means of collecting input, we will be able to come up with something that is relevant and applicable to our country, which comfortably covers all sectors of society who have had an input in the formulation of the regulation as well as the national policy on juvenile justice.
The UN Convention on the Rights of a Child have listed a number of rights for children, but Executive Director for Juvenile Justice Paul Wagun expressed that this can have an impact on a child's upbringing.
Children come from homes and they do have a mother and a father. And how do they view their rights in comparison to the role that mothers and fathers play in their upbringing? And how does that contribute towards children, law-abiding citizens, or coming in conflict with the law? It's crucial to catch a view or perspective of children, how they think, how they view their rights in comparison to how parents raise them. And this debate can effectively bring out some viewpoints of our children and how they view their rights versus how parents raise them, and also generally how society perceives that relationship between parents raising children and children offending and coming in conflict with the law.
All these legislations, policies and regulations are for the children of Papua New Guinea. Therefore, it is vital that children are made aware of this in order to understand and know what to expect whenever their rights are violated or when they come in conflict with the law. Welcome back to the program. We now see how and what the students have discussed during the debate.
Debate topic number 3. Mobile phones contribute to children committing crimes relating to sexual offenses.
For teams 5 and 6, we'll be debating on the topics further simplified down to mobile phones are causing children to commit sex crimes. So as the first speaker of the affirmative side, I will be talking more on the social aspects of the topic. My second speaker, George, will be talking more on the political aspects of the topic, and my third speaker, Geraldine, will be talking more on the economical aspects. So coming back to our topic, mobile phones are causing children to commit sex crimes. Now the term sex crime, well, mingling around my peers, mostly girls, I hear them talking about one of the most popular crime, which is phone sex, or is obscene phone calls. Obscene phone calls, as defined by Wikipedia, is the term is an unsolicited telephone call where a person derives sexual pleasure by using sexual or foul language to an unknown person. From a viewpoint of the recipient of the calls, it is generally considered to be both a form of sexual harassment and a form of stalking. The ones who are most commonly committing obscene phone calls are teenagers ranging from the age of 12 to 16 years with an average of 14 years of age. Often, these children, they are emotionally or behaviorally maladjusted and have shown previous signs of sexual abuse as well as having committed sexual abuse. Obscene phone callers are often boys, no offense, feel inadequate, have feelings of isolation, have trouble forming relationships, and consider making obscene phone calls to be the only way that they can express themselves. Sexual harassment over the phone is serious. It can destroy relationships, have the victim living in fear, and every time the phone rings, the person jumps as if they have been beaten. It can even have a long-term influence on the victim's psychology. You see, relentless harassment not only causes annoyance, but leaves a lasting impression in the victim's mind. In severe cases, the victim can be pushed to the edge, and they can end up taking their own life. So as the first speaker of the affirmative side, I say that yes, mobile phones do cause children to commit sex crimes.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Before I continue with my debate points, I would just want to rebut on my friend's points. We also should consider the high number of children who don't have phones when talking about mobile phones causing children to commit sexual offenses. On that point, the topic states that mobile phones are causing children to commit sex crimes. It is certainly not. Because it is not the only factor that contributes to sexual offenses being committed by juveniles. First and foremost, we also consider the fact that mobile phones are likely the less common factor that contributes to sexual offenses being committed by juveniles. Apart from those major factors that contribute to sexual offenses, like one of them being alcohol consumption. Now, we all come from all communities that sees that alcohol consumption is the main cause of a lot of social issues in our community. One of them being rape, the other being public drinking, which causes public nuisance. If you somehow happen to go down to one of the nearest police stations in Papua New Guinea, Port Moresby, for instance, you go down to Boroko, and you ask one of the police constables, what is the driving factor that caused juveniles to commit an offense? And his reply would be mostly related to alcohol consumption. On that note, as the opposition, I would want to say that mobile phones are not the only contributing factor, but the authorities should also look at other contributing factors that contribute to sexual offenses committed by juveniles.
I would like to answer your last statement. You mentioned the part about drinking and talking on the phone. But you see, not only drinking contribute to children, mobile phones causing, children causing sex on mobile phones, but only when a child is overjoyed about himself or herself or her beauty. Because many children around the world have been caught by parents or the law having pornography materials in their phones. The possession, impact, export, sale of the pornography is illegal. Control is strict. According to the government, all websites containing pornography, nudity, or depictions of sex are blocked, and the government has been blocking such sites since early 2009. Under the law, person who possesses, owns, imports, exports, sales, or exhibits pornography to the public are subject to arrest and trial and face up to 6 months imprisonment.
I will strongly rebut on what my fellow friends just said about pornographic pictures. Pornographic pictures and videos in the previous years, past years, the pictures and the internet site was introduced by the government themselves to the country, which they were not authorized. They were not told to the country whether it is good for the country or not. To start off this topic on mobile phone causing children to commit sex crimes, from my observation, I think strongly that mobile phone is not the only thing that is causing children to commit sex crime. For instance, let's say media. To be specific, movies. Some people watch movies on laptops or television which contains bad scenes. This causes young children to commit sex crime. Another cause of children committing sex crime is drugs. Many children under the age of 18 these days tend to do drugs and alcohol. They do this sometimes for pleasure, but sometimes they turn out to do sex crimes. So I strongly believe that phones are not the only contributing factor to sex crimes. I do believe that social media and drugs also have a big effect on sex crimes. There are other factors that affect children to commit sex crimes. They are gender, environment, family, and peer influence.
Good day, everyone. My name is Geraldine Dagi, and I'll be speaking and concluding and also giving some recommendations on why mobile phones contribute to children committing sex crimes today. Firstly, I would like to strongly disagree. Actually, not disagree, just correct you. Because you said that social media is one of the main causes for children committing sex crimes. Well, there's a point. How many children do you see carrying laptops around? I mean, like, other than phones, there's laptops. You use this to access social media. Well, children don't carry laptops and walk around to access social media. They carry mobile phones. So obviously, social media and mobile phones are connected, in a sense. Mobile phones are a major contributor to children committing crimes related to sex because it's an easy and convenient way to access the social media or the World Wide Web. On the internet, you can search anything. You type in anything and it will give you a result. So obviously, it should be really easy for someone to just type in a site for a pornographic site, and it will give you the results. It will show you the pictures that most of the time are not censored and children shouldn't be able to see. So if a young boy, if he didn't have any friends and he had a mobile phone, then probably in his boredom, out of boredom, he would go onto a pornographic site and just look at pictures and videos that he's not supposed to look at, and thus giving him ideas. And since he doesn't have any friends and he's antisocial, don't you think that he would go out and try to do something illegal, like for instance rape? Mobile phones are great. They're really great. I love mobile phones, but they also have a negative side to them. You can use your mobile phone for good or you can use it for bad. Personally, I would recommend that the government try to implement laws on parents controlling the use of mobile phones among juveniles or children, because if you don't control your children, then they can end up doing things that they and you would regret in the long run. The mobile phone is an instrument. It's an instrument to use to connect with people that are far away. You use an instrument like the mobile phone to talk to people that are not close to you. Nowadays, I think that the mobile phone and its users have been taken for granted and are quite frankly abused. Children nowadays need to be taught the ways of using a mobile phone, of using a tool. It is a tool. It's a tool for communication, not for going onto pornographic sites.
Okay, I'd like to rebut on what you said about mobile phones. This is a third world country where poverty is found all over this country, which means the obtaining of phones is not that many because of the lack of money. Also, parents or guardians of a child may not want to buy a phone for his or her child for the sake of the child's betterment, especially in spiritual terms. I would like to break down the use of the words sex crimes, sex offenses, or sex assaults into a simple word that would intricately mean the same for these long words. The most common codified name for sex crimes or offenses that involve penetration is rape, because it is the best significant term for describing the innate brutality in unwanted sex. Factors increasing risks of committing rape include alcohol and other drug consumption, as I've mentioned, being more likely to consider victims responsible for their rape, being less knowledgeable about the impacts of rape on victims, being impulsive, and having antisocial tendencies. It has been researched and confirmed that most sex offenders are males. But there are rare cases that females also offenses, so females are not perfect too. And it has been found out that, in fact, the people who have committed sexual offenses have been abused themselves, either in a physical way or sexual way or any other abuses. Mobile phones do not cause sex crimes to occur, but they do influence it. The causes are, in fact, 1, gender, 2, environment. The environment in which a child resides in influences his thinking or her thinking, which leads to action, which leads to habit, which leads to character. 3, family and peer. Children who are in a patriarchal family, which means the father or the man have all the last say in everything, can greatly affect them. Peers with sexually aggressive behavior also can affect the child and in their habits by leeching upon them their bad habits. Say for the society at large to use their head and do what is physically, sexually, spiritually, and morally good for the betterment of mankind. Thank you.
You're watching Olsem Wanem. To conclude the program, let's see what the panel of judges for this debate had to say to the student participants.
The first speaker, you mentioned about 12 to 18 years old. In our 12 to 18, 12 to 16? 16. In current today we have some young victims who are 4 years old coming to our courtyard to get evidence on sexual offences. So I want to say to you guys that you need to do more research. You have partners, you have safe houses around in Port Moresby, so you need to get your facts correctly before you say something on public.
For all the 6 speakers, your voices were loud and clear. I could see confidence in your eyes. Not many of you dropped it onto the paper. I could feel through the spirit of your voice, looking away, that you were still confident, self-confidence. But out of you, the last 2 speakers really demonstrated the strength of speaking, looking out at your audience. There was a bit of jiggle on the floor from last speaker on the against team, but it's okay. I like the 3rd speaker who summarized. Most of the time, I was looking around, making good eye contact. There was sense of humor in the speaking that didn't make the speeches so just monotone, if you like. So if you recall that, you presented very well.
Both teams presented very confidently, and that's a good sign of maturity, and you are able to stand in the public and have that confidence to participate in a public debate like this. And I think it's very encouraging from the schools that you are coming from to speak very confidently, to debate on a very sensitive subject or issue, especially on the use of phone, where sex crimes are sometimes actually prohibited to speak publicly about these sex crimes. But again, it showed you maturity by speaking out clearly and loudly.
This year, 2016, 2015, we have a big number of sexual penetration, and we are working towards to find out why children committing this offense. And this debate is really giving us something to work towards and find out why children are committing or juveniles come conflict with the problem of sexual penetration. I like the debate, the 2 groups debate on 2 points where one of the speakers mentioned parents controlling your children is number 1. But we will always think about children on the street who are living with their guidance or living on the street. How can we control them?
Parents, guardians and teachers also attended the debate session. Olsem Wanem caught up with some of them to get their opinions on this debate initiative.
Me as a parent, I think this is a very positive initiative that the department has taken up, and I think it's one through which where it can bring adults as well as the children. As I mentioned earlier, it's an issue that sort of affects children themselves. So involving them would be it's a positive step in the sense that they're expressing actually what they have also seen.
Sitting in for this debate, it's been an eye-opener at the same time, and learned a lot of things. And I think it's very good to see that the children are here attending with the teachers and the parents and those who have organized for this debate to go about. It's about creating the leaders for tomorrow with what is being instilled now to them and empowering them, and the information that is being gained out of this debate. As a parent, I've also learned something out of it.
As the organizers have mentioned, they are trying to get views from the children so that they can finalize Justice, Juvenile Justice Act. To me, that is a fair decision and stance that they have come up with to give an avenue to children to also have an input in this, because they are the ones who will be the future generation and will take this knowledge and the policies that they are doing. They are the ones who will be affected by it in future.
That's all we have for this week. If you have any comments or stories you would like to share, please send us an email via the address on your screen or leave us a message on our Olsem Wanem Facebook page. Until then, I'm Florence John Duo, and on behalf of the Olsem Wanem team, thank you for watching and have a pleasant evening.